Welcome to Grand Sumo Breakdown. No. The unofficial sumo podcast for official sumo fans. I'm taking it. I don't give a shit. I'm taking it. These are my episodes.
The
This is
Banzuke
Ryan.
episode, I suppose. Yeah, I suppose I do have to. Color commentary slash. What are the old Muppets that like the Peanut Gallery that make fun of whatever's happening?
The only words coming to my head are Wallace and Gromit, and I know that's completely wrong.
No,
but it's all I can
Statler and
think of.
Waldorf. Oh, that is kind of similar.
Statler and Wallace and Gromit. Yeah.
Statler and Wallace. That's right. That's my role on these episodes. So I suppose you can introduce yourself first for this one.
Yes.
You were quick on the trigger. Well done.
And because it's been over a year and you interrupted me, I'm doing it again because it feels so good. Welcome to Grand Sumo Breakdown, the unofficial sumo podcast for official sumo fans. And this is our Banzuke prediction for the Haru Basho. It's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out because we kind of will hit a log jam early and then it just kind of works. So we'll see. Yeah.
That's nice.
We'll kind of see how the Banzuke committee messes this up and makes everybody angry.
Yeah. Let's see which two people Shodai jumps for no reason or something.
Yeah, exactly. But putting this one together was it a lot better than the last one. And so I'm feeling okay. And that means that it's going to turn out terrible when it actually comes out. So let's go through this and see what I think is going to happen when the Banzuke comes out on Tuesday in Japan and Monday in the United States. It's a day delayed because they have a holiday over in Japan, the day that they usually would release it.
Gotcha.
So we'll start at the top with the Yokozuna, which is always the most simple rank. Hoshoryu and Onosato had the same record, so they will stay in the same order. Hoshoryu as our Yokozuna East and Onosato as our Yokozuna West. And Ozeki, just as easy as Yokozuna. Aonishiki had more wins than Kotozakura, so the Ozeki shuffle will end up with Aonishiki ahead of Kotozakura at Ozeki East and Kotozakura as our Ozeki West. And things just kind of stay pretty similar. Our two Sekiwake both had winning records, and the East Sekiwake had more wins than the West Sekiwake, so no reason to figure out if one's going to jump the other. So it's pretty easy to keep Kirishima at Sekiwake East and Takayasu at Sekiwake West. So
I like
then,
it so far.
Yeah, perfect so far, I feel like. No worries. Then we get to Komosubi, and things do get a little complicated here, but I feel like we could use logic to get ourselves into the correct solution. So based on the math, we have three Rikishi that deserve the rank of Sekiwake, those being Atami Fuji, Wakamoto Haru, and who was the other one?
Wakataka Kage?
Yeah, Wakataka Kage, 9 and 6 from Maegashira too. And then we have another Rikishi that deserves the rank of Komosubi, that being Yoshino Fuji. So we have these four guys that are going to be competing for our two Komosubi ranks. So by the math, the order that they deserve to go in would be Atami Fuji, then Wakataka Kage, then Wakamoto Haru, and Yoshino Fuji. That's just following our usual tiebreaker rules. That would be the order that we go in. But we know, especially messing in the Sanyaku, that's not how it's going to play out. And that's mostly causing issues because if Atami Fuji and Wakataka Kage go ahead of Wakamoto Haru, like I had in our order that they should go in, that would bump Wakamoto Haru down and out of the Komosubi rank where he had a winning record.
Right,
so
that's not happening.
Unless we want to create a new Komosubi rank, which I don't think is completely out of the question, but I also don't think is going to happen.
I was going to ask, that's kind of the only thing that could complicate this, but that usually happens if there's two obvious picks that like somebody was already in the Sanyaku and somebody else was like trying to barge their way in.
Yeah, say if like, I think if Yoshino Fuji was Maegashira 1 East and everything else was the same, I think we might have to, even then they might snub Atami Fuji and put him just at Maegashira 1. But Yoshino Fuji with a winning record at Maegashira 1 East would force his way into the Sanyaku ranks. Right. And maybe if Oho and Wakamoto Haru both had winning records, then yeah, they would create a new slot for Yoshino Fuji.
That's what I was going to say. Like if Oho had done well, and therefore has to stay at least Komosubi. And
Hmm.
somebody just below them, like Atami Fuji, did that well at 12-3 from Maegashira 4. That seems like something where, well, we can't demote the guys that got winning records, but this guy also did very well. We have to have him in the Sanyaku.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's the kind of slot there. But yeah, with this, with Oho dropping down, yeah, where do you see these guys lining up?
So yeah, we can't put both Atami Fuji and Wakataka Kage ahead of Wakamoto Haru. And in fact, the first thing that I'm going to assume is that since Wakamoto Haru was previously a Komosubi and had a winning record, and the East Komosubi rank is open, I assume that they're going to move Wakamoto Haru up to Komosubi East. Given the fact that he has Sanyaku bias, give him some sort of promotion after a winning record. That's my first assumption here. With that done, it's open to Atami Fuji, Yoshino Fuji, Wakataka Kage. Like I said before, Atami Fuji far and away deserves to be ranked ahead of the other two. So I'm just going to go ahead and slot in Atami Fuji at Komosubi West, and this will be a 4 rank promotion for Atami Fuji after a 12-3 record from Maegashira 4. So that's all I'm doing with Komosubi. I'm not opening up any more ranks. So that takes us to Maegashira 1, where at the east side could have Wakataka Kage go there since he deserves to be ranked higher than Yoshino Fuji. But if we do that, then we are denying Yoshino Fuji any sort of promotion after an 8-7 record. That is something that hasn't been done since the 40s for somebody ranked Maegashira 1 West. So I'm not going to do that now, and I'm going to have Yoshino Fuji rise a half rank to Maegashira 1 East, and then getting just a little bit snubbed by the circumstances, I'm going to have Wakataka Kage rise 1 rank to Maegashira 1 West after a 9-6 record from Maegashira 2. So my only concern with this and how I think we could get extra Komosubi slots opened, even though like I said, I put the chances of it at like 10%, would be, well, Wakataka Kage got a 9-6 record. Right behind Yoshino Fuji, who's 8-7. Wakataka Kage deserves to be ahead of Yoshino Fuji, but the only way that we can really do that while promoting these guys would be to open up a new Komosubi rank, either 1 for Wakataka Kage or 2 for Wakataka Kage and Yoshino Fuji. But there's just so that way we can have Wakataka Kage ahead of Yoshino Fuji, and still promote Yoshino Fuji either to Maegashira 1 West or to Komosubi 2 West behind Wakataka Kage. But we haven't seen a 9-6 Maegashira 2 or an 8-7 Maegashira 1 West force open Komosubi slots in the past. So I don't think they're going to do it just to make sure Wakataka Kage can get ahead of Yoshino
Yeah.
Fuji. Um,
I feel like Wakataka Kage getting like minorly snubbed by 1 rank is the only downside to this
Yeah.
current arrangement that you've got. That I feel like there's no reason to bend over backwards to make that work when that's the only consequence.
yeah.
If he had 10 wins, maybe we'd be talking 11 wins, certainly. But like, yeah, I don't know. I at first I was like, wow, that's quite a logjam. But yeah, when you put it like that, there really isn't. I'm not seeing anything that says third Komosubi here.
Yeah. The biggest thing that I'm concerned about in this area is possibly Atami Fuji jumping Wakamoto Haru and them not giving Wakamoto Haru any sort of promotion. But I'm not, I feel pretty good with how these 4 balance out.
Do you see Atami Fuji having any chance at being a third Sekiwake?
Absolutely not. No.
Okie dokie.
Aisho can
Had to
go
ask.
13-2 for Maegashira 1 and only force open a Komosubi slot. There's no way that Atami Fuji is going to force open a Sekiwake from 12-3 for Maegashira 4.
Definitely forgot about that one, but
Yep.
extremely strong precedent. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. But hey, this Banzuke committee loves breaking precedent, so we'll see what happens there.
For any and or no reason.
Yes. All right, so we've cleared that initial logjam of Rikishi that deserved to be in the Sanyaku ranks. And now we're just left with 2 Rikishi that deserve to be ranked Maegashira 2 to fill out the Maegashira 2 ranks.
Hooray.
Both of these Rikishi come from outside of the Joy, And the next Joy Rikshi that deserves to be ranked is Daisho, who went 7 and 8 from Maegashira 4. So obviously we can't pull him here. And then the closest dropping Sanyaku Rikshi, the only dropping Sanyaku Rikshi in Oho, deserves to be ranked Maegashira 7, which is 5 ranks below these two.
Yeah.
So I'm not considering putting Oho here. So basically we just have two guys with no, we're putting at Maegashira 2, and we're not worried about Joy bias or Sanyaku bias, which is a really weird place to be in for Maegashira 2. So the two Rikshi that leaves us with is Chura no Umi and Fuji no Kawa, who should both end up at career high ranks to fill this rank. Both Rikshi were previously on the west side, so no east side bias can be used to place one ahead of the other. And typically at this point, I would use wins as the next tiebreaker and place Fuji no Kawa at Maegashira 2 East, but I mentioned no sort of Joy bias or anything, but I do feel like Rikshi just outside of the Joy sitting at Maegashira 5 have been getting some special treatment lately. We look at last Basho when Shodai was ranked Maegashira 5 West, like Chura no Umi is now. Shodai was tied with 6 other Rikshi for deserving to be ranked Maegashira 12. He went ahead of all of those other 5 Rikshi, despite deserving to be ranked the lowest by typical tiebreaker rules, and he also went ahead of 4 Rikshi that deserved to be 1 rank or 2 ranks higher than Shodai. On that same exact Banzuke, Abi was ranked Maegashira 7 West, like Fuji no Kawa is on this Banzuke, and he got no special treatment and ended up 4.5 ranks lower than Shodai.
Wow. Okay.
So basically what it amounts to, last Basho, we had 2 guys, Maegashira 5 West, Maegashira 7 West, same ranks that we're looking at 2 guys now, Chura no Umi and Fuji no Kawa. They were tied for deserving the same rank, and the one who was Maegashira 5 went way ahead of the one who was ranked Maegashira 7. And then that's not even including 2 Basho ago, we had Koto Shoho, who was ranked Maegashira 5. And on the next Banzuke, he ended up ranked higher than 5 Rikshi that deserved to be 1 rank or 2 ranks higher than him. So we are seeing a trend recently where even if you're outside of the Joy at Maegashira 5, you still get some preferential treatment. So that's just a very long way of me saying that since Chura no Umi was ranked Maegashira 5 and fought 1 Sanyaku match, I'm going to have him ranked higher than Fuji no Kawa. So I've got Chura no Umi rising 3 ranks to Maegashira 2 East after a 9 and 6 record, and Fuji no Kawa rising 5 ranks to Maegashira 2 West after a 10 and 5 record from Maegashira 7. So
Yeah,
I don't see
Chura no
any
Umi-
way to avoid Fuji no Kawa getting right in the heart of the Joy next Basho and getting a real test for what that guy can do.
Oh yeah, very excited for it. Yeah, his record, he did end up with 10 wins, but like it wasn't enough that he was ever in the Yusho race, so he didn't like get any higher up matches or anything like that. Chura no Umi, he did get Takayasu on day 15, but that's just because they were both 7 and 7, and you like pairing those guys up with each other. But he did have a handful. It looks like he had about 5 or so matches of others Joy Maegashira. So that strength of schedule is, yeah. I always thought that tiebreaker of the more wins thing, I understood that it worked, but I didn't understand why they would go that way. Because, to me, it makes more sense. Like, the guy that was higher up faced tougher competition in general. I feel like that tiebreaker makes more logical sense, even if it didn't fit the data previously.
Yeah, it's definitely trending that way more, especially for people ranked Maegashira 5 and higher.
Sure.
And just if there's a big gulf between 2 Rikshi, we are seeing the higher ranked one getting preferential treatment a lot more than we used to under the previous regime. So then we move on to Maegashira 3, and should once again be pretty straightforward. Hira de Umi is the only Rikshi that deserves to be ranked Maegashira 3, and once again, the next eligible Rikshi that can be placed deserves to be ranked Maegashira 7, so we could safely give Hira de Umi a 3-rank promotion to Maegashira 3 East after a 9 and 6 record from Maegashira 6. And then we suddenly find ourselves in a chasm that has been pretty typical in this area of the Banzuke recently. As we reach Maegashira 3 West, the next Rikshi that deserves to be ranked is Daisho, who went 7 and 8 from Maegashira 4, still can't go here. And then we go to the Maegashira 7 rank, where we have 4 Rikshi that deserve that rank, but only 3 can be placed here because one would be promoting a Rikshi with a
Sure.
losing record. So those are Oho, Koto Shoho, and Abi. So if you think that there is a world where I'm taking a double-digit Maegashira to go ahead of a
Yeah,
former Sanyaku Rikshi, then you're absolutely insane. This should very easily be a nice soft landing for Oho, dropping only 3 ranks after a 4-11 record from Komosubi to land at Maegashira 3 West. Also, also, if you just need a little bit of extra reason to put Oho here, he would have East Side bias over the other two. Just
sure.
added layer of security.
Yeah, really, yeah, soft landing for him for sure, but certainly within the realm of what we've seen before.
Yeah, especially recently. There's been a
Hmm.
lot of talk on our Discord server in the Banzuke channel about how there's 4-11 bias now because we've seen
Yeah.
many Basho where Rikshi with 4-11 records just are dropping like 3 or 4 ranks. Like last Basho, I think there were 3 Rikshi
Hmm.
at least that had 4-11 records that only dropped 3 ranks.
I
And
hate
we're
it,
gonna
but
do it
like,
again.
oh no. Yeah, I see that there's a couple other 4 and 11s right underneath Oho over there on our results
Sure
page.
is.
I'm excited to see them in the next 2 ranks.
Yeah. So, Maegashira 4, I mentioned Daisho went 7 and 8 for Maegashira 4 East. We clearly have no one else that is deserving of knocking him away from this spot. So I've got Daisho holding on to his previous rank right here. And then that leaves us with Abi and Koto Shoho as our next Rikshi that deserve to be ranked. But they were both double digit Maegashira, Koto Shoho Maegashira 10, Abi Maegashira 12. That would be over promoted by 3 full
Wow.
ranks. It's been pretty clear over the past year or more that it is very difficult for these double digit Maegashira to break into the top ranks. They need to get past some pretty strong bias for the Rikshi and the Joy. And unfortunately for Abi and Koto Shoho, looming right behind them are Ichi Yamamoto, Takanosho, and Haku no Fuji, who all deserve to be just 1 rank lower than them. And then you even have Ura, who deserves to be 2 ranks behind the double-digit Maegashira that we have to consider because we've been seeing these Rikshi in the Joy who deserve to be 2 ranks behind double-digit Maegashira going ahead of them. So we do
Yeah.
have to worry about Ura as well, possibly jumping over them.
It would be somewhat satisfying to put Ura here just to keep, or excuse me, Ichi Yamamoto here, because that would be the exact same demotion as Oho, right?
Yeah. So in my head, with so many Joy Rikshi floating around Abi and Koto Shoho, I just feel like there's no way, based on how we've been building the Bonds case, that I'm placing those two this high in my prediction. So I'm going to look to our Rikshi that deserve to be ranked Maegashira 8 to now fill the Maegashira 4 West spot. So if I'm looking at Rikshi that deserve to be Maegashira 8, then the typical tiebreaker rules would have us looking at Ichi Yamamoto and Takanosho, since both of those Rikshi were on the east side, while Haku no Fuji was on the west side. Then by wins, we would say Takanosho deserves to be ranked next, since he had 5 wins compared to Ichi Yamamoto's 4. But that would only drop Takanosho from Maegashira 3 to Maegashira 4, a 1 rank drop for a Rikshi with a 5 and 10 record, which isn't completely unheard of. But since we have another option in Ichi Yamamoto, I'm going to have Ichi Yamamoto drop only
Hey,
3 ranks after a 4-11 record from Maegashira 1 to take the Maegashira 4 West spot.
man, I'm pretty good at this.
Hey, you're getting better.
It's only taken 5 years.
Yeah. So now we look at Maegashira 5. We're still in this same scenario. And with Ichi Yamamoto off the board, I'm still going to continue to snub Abi and Koto Shoho to prevent those two from being over promoted by 2 ranks. We've got Takanosho and Haku no Fuji, who were both previously ranked Maegashira 3, well within the Joy, only deserve to be 1 rank lower than Abi and Koto Shoho. So I'm going to jump them ahead of Abi and Koto Shoho and give both of those guys only a 2 rank demotion after 5 and 10 records. So with that being said, I've got Takanosho obviously remaining on the east side at Maegashira 5 East, and Haku no Fuji remaining on the west side to be Maegashira 5 West. And then things get a little bit tougher for me to choose what to do with Abi and Koto Shoho. Now, do I finally place them, or do I let Ura, who deserves to be 2 full ranks lower than them, stay ahead of them? I did look at recent history and realize that for the past 3 Basho, we have easily let Rikishi ranked Maegashira 5 or above stay ahead of double digit Maegashira that deserve to be 2 or sometimes even 3 ranks higher
Wow.
than them. So, with that precedent in mind, I'm going to drop Ura 4 ranks. Here, hey, it's 4, 4, 4, and 11 this time. We're dropping them 4.
We're getting better.
We're getting better to land at Maegashira 6 East. And with that being said, I think it's important to note Ura is our last dropping Sanyaku or Joy Rikishi. We've already cleared them completely off the board at Maegashira 6. So we're not going to be running into too many bias issues for about 10 ranks or so until we got to talk about Juryo bias at the bottom of the Banzuke. So this is kind of the part, as long as we just stuff all of these Joy Rikishi ahead of Abi and Koto Shoho, which I'm not feeling great about. I do think I'm not going to predict it. I'm like 51% this is going to happen, 49% they're just going to go completely against what they've been doing and push Abi and Koto Shoho up here a little bit. At the very least, Abi, because he did have a handful of Sanyaku matches, and maybe they're considering that. So we'll see what ends up happening here. I feel like what I have is too simple for what's actually going to occur.
Sure. It definitely is an early front runner for the Jake, what do you think I did wrong question?
Yeah. Well, there's not going to be a whole lot of options left
Yeah.
on this Banzuke. So at this point, I'm going to bring a name into the conversation. I am going to throw a little bit of difficulty in it, though. It's not going to be completely easy, but I'm going to throw a new name into the conversation that hasn't been relevant until now, and that's Onokatsu. Onokatsu also deserves to be ranked Maegashira 7, like Oho, Koto Shoho, and Abi all did. But we did not talk about Onokatsu because he went 7 and 8 from the very spot that we are currently trying to fill, and therefore he could not be ranked any higher than this spot. So now I need to decide if a Maegashira 6 should get the benefit of going ahead of Abi and Koto Shoho as well. And after little to no research and just going with my gut, I'm going to say no. I don't think Onokatsu will go ahead and get any sort of bias to go ahead of Abi and Koto Shoho, which means it's finally time that I'm ranking those two. Both Abi and Koto Shoho were on the west side. Abi had more wins, and like I said, Abi even got a few bouts against Sanyaku Rikishi, which could mean something for the Banzuke committee. So I'm going to have Abi go ahead of Koto Shoho, rising 6 ranks from Maegashira 12 after a 10 and 5 record to take the Maegashira 6 West rank.
So this does go directly against the idea of more wins versus higher rank. Are you putting these guys? Are you going with the more wins route because their ranks are just close together and therefore shouldn't have a difference?
They're closer together. Onokatsu is kind of, I feel like there's kind of a bit of a line drawn on the Banzuke at Maegashira 5. And yeah, the difference between Onokatsu and Koto Shoho is only 4 ranks. And like I said, this is just kind of more of a gut feeling than scientific fact-based any sort of thing.
Well, I just mean like you cited the tiebreaker of this guy had a better rank, so I'm going to rank him ahead. And then this time it's this guy had more wins, so I'm going to put him ahead.
Well, the previous time was Chura no Umi versus Fujinokawa, and Chura no Umi was previously ranked Maegashira 5, which I did back up with.
No, that's what I mean. I'm just teasing out the reasoning. I'm not saying you're wrong, but like, yeah, the reasoning for why, you know, 2 situations we use a different tiebreaker as the one that makes the decision. And it makes sense here. Like the Maegashira 10 versus 12, not really that big a deal.
Yeah.
But 5 versus 7 might be more of a big deal because those guys are in a different section of the Banzuke
kind of a different
that has
bracket.
a bit more of a line between them.
Yeah. Yeah, and now that we're talking about Maegashira 6 and Onokatsu, I do think he's kind of in a lesser bracket than like the Maegashira 5 and above.
Sure.
Also, Onokatsu got 2 of his 7 wins in back-to-back Fusen wins. And so I'm holding that against him.
I didn't realize that they were back to back. Yeah,
I didn't realize
Fuji
that either until I looked at his schedule to see who he fought, just to make sure like he didn't sneak in any Sanyaku matches.
Yeah.
And then I saw, I thought he had.
He faced Wakamoto Haru in a 7-7 match on the last day. But
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong Banzuke. I was looking at the Kyushu Banzuke. That's why I was getting confused. But yeah.
Oh, I feel bad for Onokatsu. He's one of the best in the world at sumo wrestling, but like all these guys are, and he's the new guy that I just can't really mentally track. You know, I just kind of he's like, oh yeah, that guy's there too. I guess I've seen that name before.
When did he get here?
Yeah, he's one of the he's the guy. He does the yeah.
He puts his hands on the belt, and sometimes he pushes. I believe.
Yeah. More one than the other, but I don't remember which.
Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna hold Onokatsu's for the Banzuke committee forgot about him, just like Jake did. And so Koto Shoho is gonna go at Maegashira 7 East, rising 3 ranks after a 9-6 record from Maegashira 10.
I'm sorry. Yeah, there you go. I'm just picturing like YDC West sending a letter of like these are the all the Rikishi that we remember and want to commend on their performance, and it's 41 names long. And we get to the end and we're like, oh, nuts.
Where do we put Onokatsu? F it. Maegashira 7 West. Let's do it. Maegashira 7 West dropping 1 rank after a 7-8 record for Onokatsu.
There you go.
And up next, somebody that Jake probably will mistake Onokatsu for at some point. I've got Oshoma. He is the
Didn't we
only
just do him?
I don't think so. Weren't we talking about
Wait,
Onokatsu? Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. We'll just say that we're talking about Oshoma now and that we've never talked about him before.
Absolutely criminal that there's also an Oshomi in the mix now.
Oh my God, there is, isn't there? Yeah.
Yep. That's a tough one. That trio. Oshoma and Onokatsu also like are similar build. They don't wrestle like each other, but like they're at least similar build, similar name. Oshomi doesn't look like them as much necessarily, but the name is like one letter, man. You can't expect me to keep that straight. You got to be here for a couple basho before I can really track you.
Hey, we'll see.
We'll see.
He accounted for himself very well last basho. Let's see if he keeps it up. But we are now talking about Onoshoma. He's the only Rikishi left that deserves to be ranked Maegashira 8, so no reason to not have him drop 1 rank after a 7-8 record from Maegashira 7. And now we've got 2 Rikishi that deserve to be ranked Maegashira 9 that are going to be fighting for the last Maegashira 8 spot. They are Shodai and Toki Hayate. Both were on the east side, but Toki Hayate had 8 wins compared to Shodai's 7. So I've got Toki Hayate rising 2 ranks from Maegashira 10 to a new career high for him at Maegashira 8 West. And this will be, I believe, Toki Hayate's first foray into the single-digit Maegashira ranks.
Yep. Maegashira 10, he was already at his highest career rank.
Yep. So then, after placing Toki Hayate, we move on to Maegashira 9 East. Like I said, there's only 1 more Rikishi left available that deserves to be ranked Maegashira 9, so I've got Shodai sliding down 1 rank after his 7-8 record from Maegashira 8. Now at Maegashira 9 West, we need to look to our Rikishi that deserves to be ranked Maegashira 10. Our choices are Tamawashi, Gonoyama, and Roga. Tamawashi and Gonoyama were both on the east side, so I'm going to eliminate Roga from this competition. I'm going to have him last out of this group of 3. By typical tiebreaker rules, we would have Gonoyama taking this spot since he had 7 wins to Tamawashi's 5. But Tamawashi was ranked Maegashira 5, and as I've said before, M5 seems to get the benefit of a stronger schedule over these mid to low ranked Maegashira. So I've got Tamawashi going ahead of Gonoyama and dropping 4 ranks from Maegashira 5 to Maegashira 9 West after a 5-10 record, which makes Maegashira 10 pretty simple. I've got Gonoyama dropping 1 rank after a 7-8 record from Maegashira 9 to take the east side, and Roga dropping 1 rank after a 7-8 record from Maegashira 9 to take the west side. The Banzuke at Maegashira 11 remains pretty simple. We have two Maegashira that deserve this rank and one Juryo Rikishi that needs not yet be mentioned because we're not putting a Juryo Rikishi this high. So that means we've got Shishi and Oshoma Onoshumi.
You
Jake,
got
who is it?
You got this. You can do it because I can't.
We've got Oshumi fighting for the Maegashira 11
The
spot.
youngest, newest triplet.
Yeah, the newest O guy. So both Shishi and Shishi was on the east side, Oshoumi was on the west side. So there's no reason of changing that. We should easily have Shishi rising 3 ranks after a 9-6 record for Maegashira 14 to land at Maegashira 11 East. And then I've got Oshoumi rising 5 ranks after a 10-5 record from Maegashira 16 to land at Maegashira 11 West. And like I said, Jake, it just keeps putting itself together at this point.
I'm sorry, I don't really have any commentary for in between the ranks. I'm just leaving you hanging there because there's nothing really to say about those.
Exactly. There's just one non-Juryo Rikishi that deserves to be ranked Maegashira 12. So I've got that Rikishi rising 3 ranks after a 9-6 record from Maegashira 15 to take the Maegashira 12 East rank, and that is Asakoryu. And no one else deserves to be Maegashira 12, but we do have one Rikishi that deserves to be ranked Maegashira 13 that we can pull up here, and that is Asanoyama, whose 9-6 record from Maegashira 16 should be good enough for him to rise 4 ranks to Maegashira 12 West.
Have you considered, though, that 9-6 for Asanoyama was pretty disappointing from that rank?
Oh, absolutely. Incredibly so. Expected a lot better from him, honestly.
Let's punish him by on his rank, then.
Well, if we're going to punish him on his rank, then we need to have, like, Tobizaru or Chiyoshima or Nishiki Fuji go ahead of him somehow.
Yeah, none of those make sense. Fine.
No, they don't. Really, like, this Maegashira 12 is one of the spots where I'm just like, yeah, I don't know how you could do anything other than Asakoryu than Asanoyama.
One of those things where, yeah, like it's in a vacuum, it's like pretty good, but like considering the context around it, it's like, duh, it's got to be that.
Yeah, it's the only thing that can be.
Yep.
So now filling the Maegashira 13 rank, we've got a group of 3 Rikishi that deserves to be ranked Maegashira 14 fighting for these 2 spots. 2 of them, Chiyoshima and Tobizaru, were previously ranked on the east side, so I'm going to have them both go ahead of Nishiki Fuji. Tobizaru had more wins than Chiyoshima, so it seems like he should easily go here, but Tobizaru was previously ranked at the spot we are now trying to fill. So we could knock him down in favor of Chiyoshima, but I'm going to take a little bit of a risk here and say that he is the one of these 3 that deserves this rank the most, and he is eligible to go here. So I'm going to keep Tobizaru at his previous rank of Maegashira 13 East after a 7-8 record. We've seen similar things happen in this range of the Banzuke before, so I don't think I'm going out on too big of a limb here. We've seen this happen.
Sure.
Then I've got Chiyoshima dropping 2 ranks after a 6-9 record for Maegashira 11 to land at Maegashira 13 West. And the last of that group of 3, Nishiki Fuji, I've got dropping 3 ranks after his 6-9 record for Maegashira 11 to take the Maegashira 14 East rank. After that group of 3, we have another group of 3 Rikishi that deserve to be ranked Maegashira 15 to sort out. Luckily, only one of them was ranked on the east side previously, so I'm going to have Midori Fuji drop 2 ranks after a 6-9 record for Maegashira 12 to land at Maegashira 14 West. Then the other 2 that deserve to be ranked Maegashira 15 are Keen Bozan and Mitakeyumi. Keen Bozan was previously ranked Maegashira 8, while Mitakeyumi was ranked Maegashira 14. I do think that Keen Bozan's higher rank will make up for the fact that he had fewer wins than Mitakeyumi, and I'm going to let Keen Bozan land ahead of Mitakeyumi at Maegashira 15 East after a 4-11 record from M8. And then that just leaves Mitakeyumi to drop 1 rank after a 7-8 record for Maegashira 14 to land at Maegashira 15 West. I am a little concerned that Keen Bozan's Maegashira 8 rank compared to like the other two he was tied with for that rank, Midori Fuji and Mitakayumi, could be enough for him to go ahead of even Midori Fuji, who would have east side bias. That is something that I'm looking at in this area. I'm a little concerned about. I could see flipping Midori Fuji and Keen Bozan pretty easily.
I feel like it's also a little bit mean to Keen Bozan to give him a full demotion. He managed to get 4 wins. Why doesn't he get any bias?
That's
in
true.
his
He should be
favor?
ranked Maegashira 11 or higher. Like
At least, right?
Yeah.
Even 3 is a cruel drop for somebody who lost 11 times. We've established precedent, Ryan.
Yeah, I might need to go into Guess the Banzuke and redo my selection at this point in time. I forgot about his 4-11 record.
This is probably an anecdote that a lot of people know, but in the early Civilization games, the characters would have stats that were based on like a 256-bit kind of I don't know what the term for that would be. You would have a value out of 256 for like your economics or whatever. Like each character has some value, right? And then the lowest value, Gandhi had a 1 in his aggressiveness. So if anything lowered his aggressiveness, it would
go
be
all the way back to
it would be like an
256.
overflow and make him extremely aggressive.
Yeah.
I feel like that's that there's a term for it that's going to come to me as soon as we stop recording, where like overflow or something like that. Whatever. But that kind of thing I feel like is what happens when a wrestler loses their 11th match. It just kind of breaks things, and the Banzuke committee is like, well, got to promote that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. It fixes itself once you get to 12, but if you're stuck at 11,
Yeah,
it's just
you're right.
data overflow and the Banzuke committee doesn't know what to do anymore.
It's not exactly the same situation. Yeah, it's there's one specific value that just breaks it. You got that 4-11 bias.
Yeah. All right. Maegashira 16. So now we have a Juryo Rikishi. Kind of briefly mentioned them all the way when we were talking about the Maegashira 11 rank. That Rikishi is Fuji Seiyun, who went 11-4 from Juryo 1. So we want to consider him, but we haven't placed all of our Maegashira with a winning record yet because we have Asahakuryu, who went 8-7 from Maegashira 17. And typically, not placing Asahakuryu would block us from placing a Juryo Rikishi. But in this case, I am going to have Fuji Seiyun making his top division debut at Maegashira 16 East ahead of Asahakuryu. So this scenario doesn't pop up all too often, but there is well-documented history of Juryo 1 Rikishi with double-digit wins going ahead of a bottom-ranked Maegashira with only 8 wins. So it doesn't happen too often, but it does happen consistently enough that I feel comfortable bumping Fuji Seiyun ahead of Asahakuryu here. So if I wasn't using the last, like placing the last Rikishi in the top division with a winning record as my way to like unlock Juryo Rikishi, why am I deciding to put Fuji Seiyun here when, like I said, he deserved to be ranked Maegashira 11? Why are we placing him 5 ranks below that? So similar to the last, or at least one of the last times that this came up, was when Ichinojo and Asanoyama both went like 14-1, 13-2 from the very top of Juryo. And I think even one of them was Juryo 2 or Juryo 3, and they still jumped ahead of an 8-7 bottom-ranked Maegashira. But the reason we placed those two where we placed them is if we had placed them any higher, then we would force a Maegashira to be over-demoted. And in Fuji Seiyun's case, if he went any higher than Maegashira 16 East, then the last guy that I have before him, Mitakayumi, would drop down 2 ranks after a 7-8 record instead of 1 rank after a 7-8 record. And I'm not going to over-demote a Maegashira in favor of a Juryo Rikishi. It's just something I'm never going to do. So that means I've got Fuji Seiyun landing at Maegashira 16 East to make sure we're not over demoting any Maegashira.
Makes sense to me.
So after clearing off Fuji Seiyun, we are left with just one more Rikishi that deserves to be ranked Maegashira 16. And that is our final Magashiro with a winning record. As we mentioned, Asahakuryu, who I've got climbing one rank after his 8-7 record from Magashira 17 to take the Magashira 16 West rank. And then the final rank of the Banzuke, Maegashira 17, we are left with two Juryo Rikishi that deserve this exact rank, Kotoeho and Fujiryoga. But potentially throwing a wrench into things is Ryuden,
Yeah.
who deserves to be one rank lower than these two guys. Now, a lot of times when a Juryo Rikishi deserves to be only one rank ahead of a Makuuchi Rikishi, we go in favor of the Makuuchi Rikishi, which in this case is Ryuden. But this situation, at least for me, is a little bit more complicated than that. So Kotoeho went 8-7 from Juryo 1 East, which should be a guarantee for him to reach the top division. So, all right, then let's just have Kotoeho at Maegashira 17 East and Ryuden at Maegashira 17 West. But something about that also doesn't sit right with me. And it's because it's very flimsy, but the fact that Fujiryoga does deserve to be ahead of Kotoeho, because Fujiryoga went 9-6 from Juryo 3, which would give him the wins tiebreaker over Kotoeho. So my train of thought for how I have this playing out is that Kotoeho has to make the top division based on having a winning record from Juryo 1 East. And Fujiryoga deserves to be ahead of Kotoeho. So Ryuden needs to go down to Juryo to make that happen. I feel like it's kind of similar to what we were talking about, like creating a new Komosubi slot with
I was
like
going to
Wakataka
bring that up
Kage.
exactly because, yeah, I think you could snub Fujiryoga very slightly, and then it would still all make sense because you have to promote Kotoeho. He has to be like the first guy. Like,
You don't have to. Like,
is an
I
8
feel
and 7 not a guarantee?
I'm gonna double check, but Juryo 1 East with an 8-7 record has been a guarantee, at least since the 90s.
Yeah, so I was going to say, like, if a Maegashira 1 East gets an 8 and 7, they're always promoted to a Komosubi, even if it makes a third slot.
Yeah, but the reason I say it's not necessarily a guarantee, because if we go back just one basho and look at Juryo 1 West, Fuji Seiyun was 8-7 from Juryo 1 West, and he was ranked Juryo 1 West the next basho.
Oh,
So
he
they
didn't even
held
get a
his
promotion
rank
at all.
firm.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
They had Kotoeho, who at 9-6 from Juryo 2, jump ahead of him to take the Juryo 1 East spot.
Okay.
So could be a situation where maybe instead of Kotoeho getting in there, tough luck, Fujiryoga and Ryuden ahead of you possibly. But
Yeah, that doesn't
in my
feel right,
mind, just kind of based on gut and vibes, Kotoeho needs to be in there. He got the 8-7 record from the top Juryo spot. It'd just be rude not to put him in there. Fujiryoga deserves to be ahead of him, and it's not a hard and fast rule that a Maegashira Rikishi with that deserves to be one rank lower than a Juryo Rikishi will go ahead of him. So I'm fine sending Ryuden down to Juryo. He was ranked Maegashira 15, so it's not like he was coming from Maegashira 8, Maegashira 9. That would have been a completely different conversation, I think. So I've got Kotoeho. No, not Kotoeho. I've got Fujiryoga making his top division debut at Maegashira 17 East, and Kotoeho returning to the top division at Maegashira 17 West, and us sending Ryuden down to Juryo to where he deserves to be ranked, honestly.
Yeah, along with looks like Tomokaze and Hatsuyama. So 3 switches.
Yep. My goat, Hatsuyama. I hope he can come back very soon so I can chump him once again.
So you can chump him again. Yeah.
It would make me so very happy.
I was waiting to hear you out on your explanation here for this one, but yeah, you're nuts. I don't like this. I don't like this one at all.
At the bottom?
Nope. No, I hate it. I take back what I said about that other spot being a front runner for the thing I got wrong. We can skip ahead to that section of the
That's what's
now.
coming up next, anyways.
Yeah. Nope. Ryuden staying in the top division. That's my
You got
lock.
Ryuden?
Oh yeah.
All right.
I would be willing to bet. I bet it will be Ryuden on the east and Kotoeho on the west. That's what I think.
If it's going to happen, that would be how it happens.
as opposed to putting Kotoeho ahead of him.
Yeah.
I think that's where it's going to be. I think you've spent most of a decade now convincing me how much we have to trash Juryo wrestlers that are getting promoted to the top division. I don't think this is
Comes
the
in
time to.
waves.
I don't know. I don't think this is the time to set aside that precedent. So yeah, that's what
We've
I'm going to pick for the thing that I think is probably my guess at something that you might have gotten wrong here.
we've seen Juryo Rikshi that deserve to be the same rank as a Maegashira go ahead of them. They it ebbs and flows, and right now I'm feeling like this is a time where they're not going to be as strict. And mostly it's because Ryuden is an M15. Um and he is a pretty low ranking Maegashira. Like if he was ranked even Maegashira 11 or 10, I'd probably side more with you. But he being
If he
such
was
a low
four
ranked
ranks
Maegashira,
higher, then yeah, of course he wouldn't fall that far.
well, but had a record that would put him at
Oh, I
Juryo
see.
1 as well. Yeah.
I gotcha. You'd
Like if he was Maegashira 10 and had a 4-11 record or something, or Maegashira 11 with a 4-11 record.
right. Yeah, I get you there. We also haven't really considered that Tomokaze's 4-11 is probably good enough not to get demoted to Juryo.
That's a good point.
That's a
We should
4-11.
probably
4-11.
promote him up to at least Maegashira 10 with that.
I think so too.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
yeah,
we
that's
got to take pity on the guy. He fell down flat on his ass walking back on the Hanamichi on like day 2 or 3.
I completely forgot that. That was hilarious.
Got a paralyzed foot. You can't demote a guy to Juryo that's got a paralyzed foot.
That's
Again.
can't hurt his feelings.
So yeah, I think honestly, yeah, very valid. Selecting that at the bottom of the Banzuke. That down there, who's gonna make it to the top division? Who's gonna stay in Juryo? That's up there, and then kind of what I did with Maegashira 3 through Maegashira 6, just deciding to keep all of the Joy Rikshi with very soft demotions ahead of our double-digit Maegashira. Those are the two spots that I would have most concern with. But I mean, everything else in between, I feel pretty dang good about.
Yeah, pretty solid reasoning on everything. Pretty.
But so should everybody else. So that's the problem.
Yes, exactly. It'll be one of those where you're going to get a super high score, but so will everyone else.
So will everybody else. So that's all that I have to talk about on the Haru Banzuke preview. We are going to know all the answers to this Banzuke in a week's time. As I mentioned, it's going to be released a day later than normal. It's going to be released on Monday, February 23rd for us in America. Actually be released in Tuesday in Japan. Basho is going to be starting. It's an early Basho. Starts March 8th as soon as possible. Well, actually, you've probably already gotten a trading card opening. As we record it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah,
as
we're
you're
recording
listening
this
to
a few weeks before it's releasing. So yeah,
I was
by the
on my
time
stuff
comes
this
out-
time. I actually got my Banzuke
Yeah.
prediction done early. Usually I'm scrambling to get it done right before the deadline, and then we have to figure out when to record it.
Yep.
But I'm on it this time.
We also have USSF elections are open right now. So if you've gotten an email with a ballot for who to vote for, make sure that your membership is current because your vote will not count if you are not a current member. If you didn't renew your membership for 2026, get on that.
Yep. And we should also be having a news episode coming out fairly soon as well. So unless you've got anything else, thank you for listening to Grand Sumo Breakdown. Until next time, throw your salt high and keep moving forward.
What if I did have something else? You didn't even pause for me.
I didn't care. I was so excited to say the thing.
That's a good point.